Hello and welcome to Snide's Return, a tabletop roleplay podcast. My guest today is a master of dungeons, campsites and space stations. We are caught in their rotational force at the mercy of this TTRPG icon. Charitable with their limited time as a member of a quartet of storytellers who have ventured from Arrakis to Atlantis, Britannia to a galaxy far, far away. It's time we made camp and sat down with game master, podcaster, Twitch streamer and game designer Millie Lavelle, aka Millie the GM. Millie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Have you ever considered becoming a hype man? Like in things around, because that, like, I'm like, oh, okay. No, you are talking about me. Yes, okay, cool.
Definitely about you. Definitely about
Yeah.
you. And if there's employment opportunities going, I'm relatively available for certain projects, I guess. Links in the description below. But anyway, moving
all
away
that
from
kind of thing. Yeah, Kickstarter coming next June.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you for that, and thank you for letting me chat on here.
No, absolutely no problem whatsoever. So before we get into many topics, Millie, how did you get into tabletop role-playing games, please?
I was dating somebody when I was 15, and they liked TTRPG stuff, and I just came along as a supportive person. And then we played more. We played like Dungeons and Dragons, and then we played Vampire, and then we went back to Dungeons and Dragons, and all that kind of stuff. And I think there was a little bit of D20 Star Wars in there as well. But yeah, it was like, what was it like? They were like, oh, we're going to play a game with my friends. It's called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. There's not enough of us, so you can come along if you want. I was like, okay, thanks. Yeah, sure. And we did that thing where you roll the stats in order. The first thing I rolled was like 3 6s and a 4 or something. I was like, oh, is that good? And they're like, yeah, you have to roll these other shaped dice now.
Oh, nice.
It's like, oh, okay. And then on those other shaped dices, I got 2 zeros and a 0. So I had 1800 strength, which is apparently, well, I know now, but at the time I was like, is that the best one then? Did I win? Did I win? So I had this fighter, obviously with 1800 strength, and like dirt charisma, absolute dirt, because you don't need that as charisma as a fighter. But also, we were literally rolling in order. It was 46 dropped the lowest, and then we played a bunch of that, and then we played Vampire. We had to go with Vampire, and I don't remember like all the rules or anything really about my character at the time, but they were the only one who had the ability. I think it was like something celerity or something, where you could run as fast enough to catch the bad guy.
Nice.
So they had to do that. That was the thing they did in that mission. And then life got in the way for a bit, and then I really jumped back with like 5e.
Oh,
5e.
Okay.
Like there was a bit of WFRP and stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Which I loved because it's just very British humor. Like you go from Dungeons and Dragons being like, this is the sword of my father, and this is the armor of my great aunt Calpurnia. And in WFRP, you're like, I've got a dog. No, that's it. That's my job. I've got a dog. Nobody believes me. All right, I didn't die. Great. Yeah. So that, like, WFRP was a great change of pace, and then life got in the way for a bit, and then 5e, jump back in with 5e, and then since then it's been like whoosh.
Yeah, and whoosh, I think is a fair description, and we'll get to that in a moment. I'm just taken in by your swing, as it were, from the fantasy to the dark and the gothic to the British humor, and then we're sort of back around to the fantasy, high fantasy again. So it's quite a journey. So with 5e then coming back into the game and sort of really reconnecting with TTRPGs at that point in time, whereabouts in sort of the 5e lifespan did you come in? Was there a particular module you sort of stepped back into, or was it just a homebrew? Or
no, I stepped into Adventure League. At the time I was running a board game cafe, and we were all like, ugh, Yeah, we just do board games. But one night of the week when the local board gaming group played at a pub somewhere else, we were obviously a bit quiet because all the folks who would come in and play board games in the town were off playing board games in a pub somewhere. So we were like, oh, we'll put on some Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know whether they still do because I don't have the board game cafe anymore. But Asmodee, Estevium, who they were at the time, Asmodee, used to be able to provide you with PDF adventures for Adventure League. And it was just before, if anybody who remembers it, just before DM's Guild launched, when that side of Drive-Thru was rebranded. Just before then, that was when I was kind of starting it. So we got the first couple of PDFs for Storm King's Thunder. Yeah, Storm King's Thunder for the Adventure League for free. And we ran them. And it was quickly like one of those things where I'm having to be like, hey, can I hire you for 5 hours a week to run some Dungeons and Dragons? Because I've got these people who I'm literally saying I don't want their money to. And we ran very strict Adventure League. Very because I feel like sometimes when you go to game stores and stuff, they run beautiful, detailed, homebrewed, wonderful things. But what we sort of found was we eventually became like this training ground on how to be a good D&D player, how to turn up at the same time every week with your player's handbook, your dice, your pencils, and your character sheet, how to take notes and remember things. And we were sort of like, well, if we can, we've got more space over there, but not enough GMs. If we can just teach you how to do that, maybe one of you people would like to go over there and play. And obviously we're still happy because they're still taking up space and buying dice and fizzy drinks and stuff. And then I've just made 3 more seats for these new people who I'm like, no, we've got no space. So we ran it really strict Adventure League because we just had so many folks who wanted to play. Which is, for some folks, I think it was a little chafing because eventually, basically, you turn up, you do a mission, you end it, and there's no sort of like, yes, your beautiful backstory about how you burnt down a nunnery and your tragic parents lost. Like, Adventure League doesn't care.
No.
It doesn't care, but you do get those like funny sort of there's a rambling and varying along the kind of thing at the minute, but there's a thing that's quite unique to like organized play of Dungeons and Dragons. Pathfinder as well. Pathfinder and Starfinder do it, and it's called like an epic. And I really love the format. So one person, so it's one room with 7 or 8 tables, 3 or however, and you're all sort of playing in the same adventure. The one for Adventure League in the Storm King's Thunder is the Battle of Parnast. So all through the season, you're based at Parnast. You're finding out massive spoilers for anybody who's going to play Storm King's Thunders, or it's old now. It's like saying massive spoilers for, I don't know, Agents of Shield. Yeah, it's like that. Okay, so all through the thing, you're sort of all the mini adventures kind of tie in, and you're going off to find out why the goblins are mobilizing, or why this weird magic is going off in the mountains, and where this Etin join your side in the coming battles, why the Fae in the local forest are upset. And they do a cool little thing where you get like a story award. So it'll say something like friend of the Fae, or enemy of the Fae, or honest in Parnast, or cheeky in Parnast, that kind of stuff. And you get to the end of the season, you've made your sort of stories in Parnast. Did you fight Blood Drinker the bear, or did you tame him? That kind of stuff. And your whole sort of like Adventure League community gets together, and you're going to defend Parnast, because this tribe of stuff that we've been sort of hinting about and has been going on, that's going to happen. And so you sort of, if you imagine it like the multiverse, like with Doctor Strange, you kind of do a thing where you go like, how many folks have friends of Parnast? And you go, 1 to 10. How many folks are enemies of Parnast? 2. Okay, we're friends of Parnast. How many folks are in with the elves, in with the Fae? 2. How many folks aren't? 10. Oops, that's not going to be good. That kind of stuff. And then you also do a thing where you're like, do we have any clerics here tonight? Do you have any bards here tonight? And our particular one, we only had one druid and one cleric, and that was our only sort of healing magic. They were the healers. Which was quite funny because the guy who was playing the bard was quite loud. And he's like, the only bard at the Battle of Parnast, it's terrible. Everybody's going to die. And we're like, oh, great. And then, so you all defend. You can all go off and choose a mission to do. And that mission will generate support for the final battle at the end of the day. And then there is a giant that is going to attack the town. Between us, the GMs, we kind of had a huddle and decided where the giant was going to turn up. But your players don't know if their table is going to be the one that gets hit with the giant, and it could be the level 1 table, could be the level 4 table, that kind of stuff. So do you want to change who's on this gate? Do you want to do that kind of stuff? And it's like a big 30-player Dungeons and Dragons games, and it was just brilliant. And that was like a very different intro to 5e than I think most people got, because obviously some folks are porting over their 3.5 campaign that they've been playing since they were 8, and then other folks are like, oh, Curse of Strahd, let's play that, that kind of stuff. And we were playing, like I was playing these little episodic adventures, and some nights I'd run the same adventure 3 times in a row.
Oh, wow.
For 5, 10, 15 to 18 people, and we do the same thing 3 times in a row. So these little 2-hour adventures, and it's really good. For that, like, it created a view of 5e that you could share in the same way. Where we all go, did you watch the latest
episode or movie or whatever?
Yeah, and you all sit down. And so we served beer at the cafe, and we would find that there were folks who would get in a little bit earlier for the game, sit down on the couches and be like, oh, what did you do with the thingy last week? Oh, our group, we did this with the thingy. Oh, we killed it. We've still got one of them. I've got that kind of stuff. And, it created that kind of sort of water cooler community around 5e, and there was no spoilers in it for the folks because they'd all played it. And it was self-contained, and it was like a really, really cute way to sort of experience 5e with, like, I think we had about 40 folks at one point all scrabbling to try and play Dungeons and Dragons. But we ran it really strict so that those folks could then go off and be like, oh, we're going to play Elemental Evil over here. It's like, okay, cool. If you need some character sheets, we've got some, but now I'm going to be able to put other people in your seat. Teach them how to turn up every Wednesday at 6 o'clock to play a Dungeons and Dragons game, and let people know if they're not coming and that kind of stuff. So it was like we used to joke with the GMs and stuff, like we were literally teaching people how to be a Dungeons and Dragons player, as well as teaching them how the rules work and how the game works, and having a story with them. So it was slightly different, the sort of intro into 5e than normal.
No, that's amazing, and not that you can hear it in the audio, but I pulled a couple of faces when you were mentioning numbers of people at the table. So were you GMing, or were you sort of just curating the experience at the time? Or DMing?
No, I was GMing every week. So I used to run 2 tables every week. We had we had like 3 sessions. We had an early session, which was typically like kids after school, started about 4. We didn't get a massive amount there because we're not babysitters. If you want your kids to come to it, they either need to be like 15 or 16, or you need to come with them. So it was quite a chill group. But as that was like finishing up, that would be when all the I've finished work and I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons folks would be. And that took a lot of wrangling. But once we got into that, I ran 6 till 8 and then 8:30 till 10:30 every Wednesday for a good year or 2. Yeah, we did Storm King's Thunder, Curse of Strahd, and we stopped just before Waterdeep Dragon Heist season, I think. Was it Waterdeep Dragon Heist? Something like that, yeah.
That would work in the chronology, but obviously you were there in the mix.
Because the way the Adventure League used to run, it runs slightly differently now because it's not as sort of on rails as it used to be. But it was good because the story of Storm King's Thunder doesn't actually spoil Storm King's Thunder. Like the world, the world it's set in Parnast and Forgotten Realms, the area is changing and suffering the effects of the giants Storm King stuff. Like at one point, a cloud castle zooms overhead, and you have to stop the camels from getting buried and stuff. And and there are giants and stuff, and the factions. If you've watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie, you have no idea what we're talking about. But they mention things like the Harpers and the Lord's Alliance and the Zentrum and stuff. Those are present, and they're trying to secure certain influences. If your character's part of them, you've got like agendas to seek through the game, but it doesn't actually spoil Storm King's Thunder. And same with the Curse of Strahd season. That's called the Suit of Mists, which is named after one of the Taroka suits. And again, it's based in a little village that's not on any of the Barovian maps. So it's just like this sort of secluded little village, but you get embroiled in like this big side kind of plot that could be part of a Curse of Strahd campaign easily if you wanted to dive in and add it in. But you don't go up against Strahd, but you do, suffer through all the consequences of everything else. The bad guy, the ultimate bad guy, is called Esme Amaranth, and there is a big ritual at the end that you discover and have to interrupt. And every now and again in my Facebook memories, it comes up with like I was 3 turns away from letting the bad guy win. 3 turns, that's all I needed. So close. Because the players did the typical player thing of getting embroiled in the fight. Like, we're fighting things. And they're like, oh, no, wait, hang on. Stuff is happening in between this. And they worked it out quick enough, just quick enough to nip it in the bud. So Curse of Strahd doesn't spoil. Suit of Mists doesn't spoil Curse of Strahd. They all run nicely parallel. Because like it's WotC, right? They don't want to lose a sale of a book because you've got, no, I played it at the shop.
Yeah.
I played it in my game shop. Like, no, you haven't. You can buy this $50 book as well, and take it home and play it for your players. But yeah, it was really good. But not the traditional kind of story that comes with the published books. And we sort of stopped. Life and stuff gets in the way, and it ended just before we got into Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Which would have been interesting, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, having sort of DM'd for these various tables, 3 times in an evening to a variety of different groups within the structure that is the Adventurers League, as you've mentioned. What did you learn the most from that experience, and how have you brought that forward into your GMing, moving away from DMing into the GMing?
Into the GMing bit.
Various TTRPG.
Like, I think the thing, like, for all our sort of upsets about various parts of 5e and that kind of thing, the thing about Adventure League is they are very well written for, I've got 17 seconds to learn this story. Let's go. And that's sort of like, there's very definite like ways to quickly prep or ways to get through. Like, I've done nothing. What are we going to do? Adventure League sort of, it's nicely presented. It has everything in one packet. And so the appreciation of what do I need to get through 2 hours, and also like the understanding, like 2 hours is actually not that much content. Like you don't need that much to keep that going for 2 hours. Because sometimes I know, like as a GM, you'd be like, I must have 75 NPCs and 18 discrete locations with all of their own plot hooks, and I must have a menu for the bar and a list for the shop. You don't. You just need 2 or 3 things set up and a bit of understanding about where to find the other things in the core book. So that's kind of what you get out of Adventure League for me.
Hmm.
Also, just how fun it was to have such a unwieldy, large, epic game. Like I've played at other ones of those at like the UK Games Expo.
Yeah.
We did one for Chult. Chult. That was no, it wasn't. It wasn't Waterdeep Dragon Heist that we ended in. It was Chult.
So Tomb of
Tomb of
Annihilation.
Annihilation.
Yeah.
We got a couple into that, and then we fizzled out. But I ran. I was a monster. I was a wandering monster in Chult and Descent into Avernus. And they were like, if you imagine your local game store full of everybody playing, these are huge rooms with 15 or so tables, and Will Doyle and folks who organize them, absolutely phenomenal folks who just on, like, they know the adventure backwards and forwards, they're on their timing, they're really good. Like, we all dressed up in characters. Like, if anybody knows Descent into Avernus, somewhere on I think it's on the, like, you'd have to go back a couple of years, but I think on the UK Games Expo Twitter, there's me dressed up as Mad Maggie screaming at people, like, in their faces. It was because that's what Mad Maggie is, not a nice person. But yeah, I would like this horned hat and devil wings and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the things from like Adventure League going forwards, prepping on a dime, prepping in like, all right, what's the key bits here? Like, what have we got to nail down? And then also how awesome big events are for your 5e game, or any games really. I played in a Pathfinder one that was awesome as well. Those folks, Ross, yeah, they were really good. Yeah. But...
All right. Well, you mentioned how it's helped yourself, and how I and we would like to help you is to know where we can find you. Where are you on social media? Where are you on the internet? Where are you? So we can consume your content, please, Millie.
Oh, yeah. So mostly these days, if you find Garblag Games, there will be a Millie involved in that somewhere. Mostly completely 1,000 light years away from 5e. I'm running Coriolis at the minute on Tuesday nights. Coriolis is like, I guess, the elevator pitches. Oh yeah, there we go, that book. But the elevator pitch is like Firefly, but what if it came from Arab countries instead of Asian countries? Like, that is the easy one. It's actually a lot more complex than that. There's a million factions that are just vying for this space, and your players have been cursed or blessed with being caught right in the middle of all that. So we're running the campaign, the Mercy of the Icons campaign. We're just 28 sessions through the middle of the second book. It's not 28 sessions for it all. That's 28 sessions for the middle act of the second book. So it's chunky. But we play that Tuesday nights, 2100 British time. And then now and again, like, I'll take part. We were playing some WFRP a while ago. We played some Dune a while ago on there. But that's the best place to find us. We have a Discord and that kind of stuff. And then if you put like Millie the GM into most social media, so Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, you can probably find me there. But there'll be a link somewhere else. I'll send you some links in a minute, and you can do magic with it.
I will make sure there are links down in the description below to Garblag Games and to your good self as Millie the GM. So you have your own Twitch channel.
I do. I haven't done much on that for a while. Like, the last things we were doing with that was the other not high fantasy stuff I love, which is Tales from the Loop. I had some friends, and that came out of lockdown. Like, when I was in lockdown, I was kind of going through, the day job has stopped. Better not just lie in bed and do nothing. And so I tried to write a bunch of Tales from the Loops mysteries, and I did it.
Wow.
Set some really strict, like, word limit goals, and then also based them around Lancashire, where I live. So they're all based on, like, Lancashire interpretations of myths. So we've got like a black dog, a boggart, ghosts, witches, because obviously there's a Pendle witch is a big thing up this way. Mermaids, that kind of stuff. But like the Lancashire sort, because obviously the Scottish version of a mermaid is different to a Liverpool version of a mermaid to different to a London. So very, very Lancashire based sort of interpretations of these. Wrote them, stuck them on drive-through. I think they're mostly all silver, which is like, oh, all right, that's fun. Made a little gazetteer, so if you want to, like, Tales from the Loop is the 80s that never was. In it, you play as kids, but there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes around this. Like, if you think back to when you were a kid, there's the sort of stuff that the grown-ups do kind of filters down, and like the Northwest UK is actually really good for some of the things that happen in the background, like even putting the pseudo futuristic retro science on the stuff, like, so dockyard strikes and miners strikes and that kind of stuff in Tales from the Loop can be interpreted as robots taking the jobs. So the campaign for real humans to do the job becomes a thing that's going on in the background. Why is so and so unhappy they've lost the job to a robot? Uncle Kev's got to stay here because robots have took his job. Or, we want organic food, not this food that's farmed by agricultural drones and stuff. And so it poses a load of interesting sort of things. And in amongst that, you've got the space for weird stuff, tech gone awry, and people meddling with science you should. So I wrote a bunch of them during lockdown, and then we ran through them on my Twitch channel with a few friends. Cats that spy on people happened. What else? So that was my Twitch channel. So I don't do a massive amount on there anymore, but now and again I'll pop up and play Alien Isolation, which is hilarious to watch how many times I die in a normal bit. So I am absolutely rubbish. I still haven't finished it. I've been playing it for about 3 years now. I'm just trying to escape the medical bay, if that helps anybody. The medical wing, after getting some medicine for someone. But the alien keeps finding me and eating me. And I'm just like, all right, fine.
Curses.
Yeah, I'm playing on easy as well. I'm playing on easy. That's the embarrassing thing. One of my other friends is like a game streamer, and they finished it within like 2 weeks. And I was like, I've not seen this bit. And they're like, oh, sorry. Like, no, it's fine.
It's all good. I was thinking that obviously some of the games you mentioned, the Tales from the Loop, Tales from the Flood, are also free league. So is Coriolis.
Yes.
The things you've written.
Yes. So PsyCamp is based on.
You wrote PsyCamp, yeah.
Is based on the Year Zero engine. It's just a really nice system that you can sort of glue things onto or cut things off. And the other thing is it's based on D6s, which are, you could go and rage a Monopoly board for them. Yeah, you could go and steal them from that. And there's no like happens all the time when you get folks playing D&D. Like, is this the D20? No, that's the D12. You've rolled a D8 there. You should be rolling a D10. You've just done yourself out of some damage, kind of thing. Just roll that again for me with the right dice. Can somebody help? That kind of stuff. This is just, a pool of D6s, and quite often you can just empty a bag of D6s into the middle of the table and use that. And so it's nice. It's just a really, really quick to sort of teach. Like the mysteries I wrote for the Tales from the Loop. The whole sort of thing about them is I've run them at like Aircon and UK Games Expo and stuff, and you can make the character and play the mystery and learn pretty much all the rules in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Could probably push it to 3 if you wanted to be a bit, add in those extra bits. But 2 hours and done. And you're not missing out on any of the route. Like, it's not like with a intro 5e one shot. We're like, okay, we're not going to do grappling. we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
We just put him down.
Yeah.
You've pretty much got all the rules, and that's quite like great to have your players be able at the end of it go, okay, and then it's a really nice system to be like, you played Alien, yeah, all right, we're not going to use the yellow dice, but you've pretty much got it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a shout when you want to push the roll, that kind of stuff. You played Vaesen, yeah, all right, bit the same, but no guns, that kind of stuff. Tales from the Loop, Vaesen, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really like the sort of system. And then they've started doing all these IPs, Free League. Like they've started doing like the Alien, which amazing, love
it's
it.
It's a phenomenal game.
Absolutely brilliant. Played Frontier War with folks on Garblag. And it was brilliant. The first session, Dan, who was playing, we were Marines, we were doing the mission, that kind of stuff. He'd been rolling dirt all session, barely got any successes, and you need 6s to get a success in your dice pool.
You need a 6. I won 6.
So there was a bit where we had a bit of a fight and things went a bit left, and Dan Ham was crit. There was a crit on Dan's character, and we're like, do you want to roll the crit to see what happens to your character? And he was like, yeah, barely had any luck with these dice. Let's go. And then he got really excited because he rolled 2 6s. And we were like, no. Oh, that's bad, Dan.
That's bad.
I'm sorry. Ranger's dead in the first game. You want to make a new character, buddy? Yeah. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant moments from it. And then all the way through, one of the players had a character called Gordo, who was supposed to be like this young new Marine, and he was really gung-ho, and we all kind of got to love Gordo, and then I got to kill him with a queen. It was great. Gordo, no! Ripped him apart, like, and he had to make a new character. He got almost to the end. It was brilliant. Yeah, so I love Aliens, love the Alien like world, and then I've got Blade Runner down there. Keep meaning to crack that out because obviously, if you like all the Alien world, you're gonna be a little bit into Tyrell Corp and all that jive, and
absolutely.
And then Walking Dead is coming. That's up my street as well. That sort of stuff. I think the only real Free League sort of system or game is the One Ring. I've never got into that one. And I just don't feel like I know enough of the lore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that out of all of the games we've mentioned, and I was going to say that some of the things you'd written about the North around Lancashire and things would be perfect for Vaesen, rather than Tales from the Loop or Tales from the Flood.
I wrote those before Vaesen was released, and then Vaesen came out. I was like, and then Graham Davis
done Mythic Britain
did Mythic Britain, and I was like, I remember because he's part of
the Rookery.
The Rookery. I remember talking to him as part of that, and he was like, you should send me those things. We could have a chat about something, but you can't. Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. No, I get it now. All right. Yeah, good. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted then.
No, I was agreeing with you. The one ring and even the port into the 5e system. I think there's such an expectation to know more than the surface level sort of world Tolkien experience.
I really wanted to dive in with Strider mode, like the solo play of it. So I thought that, but then even then, when you like crack it open, you're like, oh, I genuinely don't know. I don't know enough. Just like, it's intimidating, right? Like maybe I just want to be hobbits stealing carrots from Farmer McGregor. I'll just run a little hobbit game over here in the corner. You can change the world and Middle Earth, and we'll just make cakes.
I think the starter set is effectively has that, and even I'm too worried about running that with respect to hobbits and all those sorts of good things. So
I mean, I think partly because the majority of the games I run, like I do play games like secret private games with friends and stuff, but the majority of the games I run are either online or at an event. And those are the places where folks have a bigger opportunity to do. Actually, So I'll just like not have to actually no. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've not written it like that.
Yeah,
That's not what we're playing.
no, that's
So
yeah. But with the other games you mentioned, and I think you and I both have an affinity for the Free League publishing output. All their games are solid. Whether we take to them, the One Ring as an example, Symbaroum is a fantastic setting.
Symbaroum's great. Yeah.
Both Symbaroum as the system it is, and the Ruins of Symbaroum, which is the 5e
It's a
port,
5e
are
version. Yeah.
fantastic. Artwork is amazing. What else have they released recently that's amazing? Morkborg, Cyborg.
Do you know what I was really surprised at? I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. Was Twilight 2000. Like, so I backed it on Kickstarter because fear of missing out. And it sat in shrink for ages. And then one of my friends is like a proper war military nerd.
Yeah.
He could tell you the difference between a armored vehicle and a tracked vehicle down to minutia, and introduced him to Delta Green. Actually, he didn't really get on with Delta Green, but he was like, "Oh, I really like the idea of this Twilight 2000." It's like, all right, well, why don't you borrow my stuff, and if you like it, we'll play some of it. And he was like, "Of course I like it. It's got war shit in. Oh, sorry, war stuff in."
You can swear, it's fine.
Okay, just checking. Of course I like it. It's got war stuff in. And then we ended up playing, like, we didn't do the European one. He made it like a local one, and we got some local maps printed out, and we throw them around and that kind of stuff. And in the very first session, we were like shelled, nearly died.
Oh, wow.
Our doctor, like, we're scrambling to protect, and it was like it was less. Oh, well, actually, it's an MP4 with this kind of stuff, and more like, better go to that local town and steal some fuel. And it was more of a survival kind of stuff. Like, it wasn't the military procedural I feared it would be. It was really good. Like, we've played that for a bit. We've got what is the one? The Urban Operations, because
I've been waiting for that to come out, to be fair.
Urban Operations, which is really good. There's some really good, like, they have a deck of cards which generates random things, and that I love, because then you can it's almost Western Marches emergent narrative kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And it uses the other version of the Year Zero engine, which is, instead of your dice pool getting bigger, your dice gets better. So you go from like a 6 to an 8 to a 10 to a 12, and you can get multiple successes. But it does mean, like, and I think it fits Twilight 2000 better. Like, there are some times when we're playing Coriolis, and now because we've got characters that are like so far through the story, the dice pool's getting a bit daft. Like,
That's fair.
Ben's character, Shanaz, is like a media courtesan darling. So she basically like goes, and everybody goes, yeah, you're right. but there's a chance she won't, but that you can get like 7 successes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit more than the 3 they anticipate you needing. That kind of stuff. Whereas Twilight 2000, the step dice, I think, is also used in Blade Runner.
It is, yeah.
That tops out at like 4 successes or something. Like, that's it. You can have a skill dice and a something
base
else.
dice and a skill dice.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
What I like about the Twilight 2000 dice is the if you've got the set, which I imagine you do, as you've just described, is the hit location. It's I think that adds a fun and yet brutal element to it, depending on how you sort of pass it off.
It made us. It definitely made me think of like old WFRP, where you'd roll to hit, and then you flip the numbers to see where it hit, and then you'd be like, "Oh no, he's hit my legs again. I've got no armor on my legs. Can you just hit better?" That kind of stuff. It really made us think. But that's how my character Kenton ended up with ruptured kidneys because I didn't have anything like when we got, that kind of stuff. And it was just like,
Yeah.
great, my kidneys are dying. I basically couldn't go over a bump for 3 sessions for fear of dying. So it really changed how we approach things because I think Kenton was Kenton didn't have much melee, but was very gobby in like
Right.
the way they're like, well, I can't remember what the thing is, the character, the personality skill, and the whole idea was, I'm going to have a character that can maybe talk our way through stuff. Turns out can't even get to the conversation without dying. It's like, oh, great. But yeah, the hit dice is really fun, dangerous.
And speaking of hits, Garblag Games is a hit. It's a popular sort of streaming and YouTube channel. How did you first get involved with them, and what is coming beyond Coriolis in the future for yourself and Garblag Games?
Oh, okay. So, actually, right about the time I was streaming with my buddies on my channel, I also ended up doing. We started the Coriolis stream. Gosh, on the Free League channel. Wow. We started that there right about the same time we started book 1, Mercy the Icons, page 1. Find Nur on the Free League channel. And Pete was streaming Alien. I think it was the Alien game with the bees, Xenobees. He wrote a whole and a Lavelle bionational out. Simon, who is known on the channel for being a little bit like, I don't know, bees. I don't know, let's wear a horse's hat. I don't know, that kind of stuff. And so they were streaming that at the same time. So we kind of got talking to Pete. And every December, I don't think it happened last December, but at the time, every December they were doing like guest GMs, one-shot stuff, as many kind of games as December, because the thing that happens behind the scenes is that gives folks who might be going away, they can do that kind of stuff. So you've got the time to break off and do this, and people who don't normally get to play together can play, or you can do that kind of stuff. And I ran Tales from the Loop for folks. And after that, we got chatting. We ended up playing Traveller on there. Again, a character that if you sneezed at, she would die. She ended up in Traveller character creation, the life path thing. She ended up stuck in prison, and like there's only 2 ways to get out of prison. And I was there for like term after term after term, and ended up getting out of prison and being a really old lady. And it's just like, well, better not go anywhere near a gun. That was great. So we played some of that. And then for one reason or another, we ended up moving Coriolis over to Garblag. And now I was looking at the podcast feed the other day. We're like 60 or so episodes in of Coriolis. It's absolutely boggling. And we're only in the middle of the second book. There's another book and a half to go. Anyway, that's a good rant, by the way. Just so yeah, we kind of got involved in doing that, and I behind the scenes put up the podcast feeds with Garblag and that kind of stuff. So if you only ever listen to that, that's me going, oh, I haven't done that yet. That's why you get 4 podcasts like dumped in a row. I haven't done it for a week. Quick, go. In terms of what we've got coming in the future, we were like, it's really hard, like, because we've done it in the past where we'll go, oh, we'll absolutely do this. And then life gets in the way because it's like, this isn't a day job. This isn't like, and we do have a Patreon and we do have a Twitch subscription sort of stuff. But in like the grander terms of things, that barely covers like Adobe subscription, not YouTube, podcast hosting. What do you do if somebody breaks a microphone? What do you do if so and so's got no camera? That kind of stuff barely covers any of that. Not to say it's not welcome, like I'm not complaining or nor shilling for
No,
more,
of course, no, absolutely.
but is to do on the other hand and think like it's not a job. So when a player or somebody says, actually, I've got to do these shifts, or actually I've been doing 3 nights a week for months and I want to see my family, please stop forcing me to do Twitch, please. No, we don't force anyone to do Twitch, but you know what I mean, like it's not a position where we can go, well, we've just told 5,000 people on that we're going to do more WFRP, and like kind of stuff. So we have kind of done that in the past, and plans have fallen through. And the flip side of that coin is, because we've reached a size where we do have like 5,000 subs on Twitch, YouTube, and that kind of
Yes, you
stuff.
do, yeah.
Folks are kind of going, well, you're quite big now. What do you mean you're not doing Flint and Steel? It's like, well, yeah, but you've said. Like, nah, we want to.
Yeah.
So it I think it reaches a point where you're a bit like, well, we're going to try to do these things eventually, but we're not going to promise anymore because people get sad, upset, or cross.
Yes.
And then again, like there's the other sort of thing is like, originally when we were there and I was talking with Pete and Ben and Matt and stuff, it's like we want to play things that we love. Like part of Garblag is like, really it's an extension of our own gaming. And so trying not to fall into the sort of, well, everybody wants us to play this game.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to play this game, but everybody wants us to, and then it becomes less fun.
Yeah.
And you can see it, like you can literally see when folks don't want to play a game, or you must see it on other streams and stuff like that. You see it when folks are like totally not bought in, totally sort of forced through the blender of making content.
Yes.
So there is a bit of like, not necessarily gonna announce like things I want to run, like when we get to a nice break in Coriolis, which might be after this mission. We might come to the end of the Cyclade dance, which is the middle bit of the book, before the last act of the book, where big things happen in book 2. Spoilers, big things happen in book 2. So before we get to that, we might take a break, and if, like, I've been reading the Walking Dead stuff, so we'll set up a little, Walking Dead community and have a couple of weeks faff around with zombies. If Building Better Worlds, the Alien book, lands, I pre-ordered that, so I might, give that a go, because I really enjoyed Frontier War in the format that was in. And I've chatted with Dave from the Effect podcast.
Dave,
Selmark, who did the rules for Alien, like that Alien that bites your face off. Dave wrote those rules, so he's involved in like, right. And I don't know the content, like he's not broke any NDAs. Like,
no,
just explain there. He's not broken any NDA. I don't want to get Dave in trouble because he's a really great guy. But the stuff he's sort of spoke about and kind of talked around his input into the books is like, oh, sounds really good, mate. That sounds cool. I really want to put that in front of players. So there's those. I mentioned it in passing, but Delta Green, absolutely love Delta Green. It's like modern day Cthulhu conspiracy. And when I say modern day, I mean 1990s, because that's modern. None of this 2000 shenanigans. But yeah, and there's a campaign in that called Impossible Landscapes. If you ever get the opportunity to look at any Arc Dream Delta Green books, they are gorgeous, and they are like, it's frustrating because when they do their Kickstarter, they're like, we're going to publish this when it's right, and quite often that means we're going to publish this late. But when you do get it, like they've won Ennies for layout and that kind of stuff, and there is so many weird little clues and odd sort of things. So Impossible Landscapes deals with the King in Yellow and that play and all that kind of stuff. And how, and there are points in the book where you're like, am I seeing that? Like, I need to go and switch the big light on. Hang on. That kind of thing. Like, come here, sweetheart. Come here. Look at this page for me. Just tell me, is that the same as that? And they're like, I don't think so. Oh, right, okay, on to conspiracy message boards. And they're like, am I the player in Arc Dreams game? Is that what's happening here? Because they are really, really like well thought out books. Well, beautiful. All of them. Like, I'm a massive fan and I don't even play it on stream or anything. But I think that's partly because the content is a little bit.
Yes. So on that sort of on that vein, on that theme, then away from you mentioned you enjoy personal or private games, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
So including Delta Green into that, are there games that you want to run simply for a private group of your social group or of your choosing that doesn't have the pressures of performance or the outside influences of desire and pressure to put on a specific game? Are there systems that you've really fallen for that at some point you will take to a table in the privacy of your own enjoyment in that respect?
Do you know what I actually run the most of at home is 5e.
Oh wow!
Like, and I guess like I think the odd thing is, so we're going to start Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. And part of the reason I'm going to run Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus is because way back when I shelled out a butt ton of money for the Beetle and Grim box.
Oh wow!
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love those. I love those kind of things. It's part of why I think I love Delta Green, because there's so many handouts and bits and stuff. And so I really want to run that game. We were playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and then we sort of fizzled out because I got very stressed about running 72 events at the UK Games Expo over 6 locations in 3 days, and that just puts a little bit of a workload pressure on you when you're trying to make sure that that's ready for a fixed date. So we fizzled out, and then next month we're going to kick off with Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. We're going to start at level 7 just to make it spicy.
Nice.
And then I'm playing in a Waterdeep Dragon Heist game that my husband's running. But he's also putting in keys to the Golden Vault adventures in it.
Okay.
So we're mixing those kind of things in. We had to get a weird egg gem thing. Don't know what that was about, but we had
but
to.
You did it.
We heisted it. It was only a minor calamity. And so I'm playing in that. And then I think eventually, I played a D&D game recently. Well, we ended it just before the UK Games Expo at level 20, fighting Tiamat in hell. All the cliches. Paladin of Bahamut with a Holy Avenger, chosen of the Raven Queen, every cliche. Zombie Tiamat rising up again because of Orcus. It was great. And that ended, and that we'd been playing that for about 5 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I end up playing, but I think that's just because we just goof off. Like, there's a difference between streamed games, because they're normally quite focused. Like, okay, folks, we can do shopping later. We can, talk about stuff later. Let's, focus on the 2 hours, and then we can stop the stream and have a gab about work or whatever. And then the D&D games we play around, we do sort of be like, oh, this is a nice cake. This is a cake. Did you bake this cake? Yeah, I baked this cake. Oh, that's great. Do you want me to bake a cake next week? Anyway, whose turn was it? Do you need another cuppa? No, I'm just gonna have some coke. That's kind of stuff. And where's the Pringles gone? And a 3-hour game could actually be a 90-minute stream. But I think, we just play, and it's more just a social kind of event rather than some of the stream games. Some of the stream games I've absolutely, like the Traveller game where I played the old lady, Karen, was one of my most favorite games ever. You never really get that kind of focus around a table though, because somebody would inevitably be like, oh, I'm going to make a brew. And you'd be like, but I was just having a really good death scene. So they are very different. I think a lot of the stuff we play at home, I will self-confess to being an absolute agent of chaos.
So who is your character who is your current agent of chaos then?
Sinner Fyland, of House Fyland in Waterdeep, and she is a monk who has just come back from a gap year in Chult. and seems to be cozying up with the Zentarim.
Ooh.
Like, she's...
Is that a bring over from Cholts where they have not
No,
spoilers, but spoilers?
It's because there's Waterdeep Dragon Heist has a bunch of like conflicting sort of missions for different characters, and instead of one of the missions is to follow one of the other factions about and find out what they're up to. So Cinna just went and asked, like, what are you doing? And there was like, well, why are you asking? It's like, because I want to know. And they're like, all right, if you do this job for us, we'll give you a fat wodge of cash. And she likes cash.
Nice.
So now she's friends with Davil Starsung and Yagra thingy.
The
Stonejaw?
I think that's right.
Stonejaw, I think
Doom Raiders.
The Doom Raiders, yeah. So she's friends with them now, which is interesting because somebody else is friends with Silvermane, and then somebody else is friends with the Bard, and we've got somebody else who might be going to join the church. It's like, okay, it's gonna be interesting.
It's all over the place.
We're definitely. So Cinna is it's a monk who doesn't like Volo Thamp Gedam because his book about Chult is a lie because she's been there, and really doesn't get Dock Ward why it's so cheap because she's a noble. So yeah, that's her, and it's great fun. It's great fun. Just but the other end of the stick is right. I've ran Waterdeep about 4 times. I know what's going on. So I mean, that's fair. I could just be like, I'm going to touch this box and see how it goes. And the folks we're playing with, they're all great people. Like one of the players is a drunken monk. So you can't leave any money around because he goes and gets drunk. So we have to hide them. So the bard has to hide the money in the bag of holding.
Nice.
And then we've got a changeling who's will try anything once. All right, I've not done this. Let's have a go. Oh, that was gambling. Yeah, great. So yeah, and then a chap who either thinks he's a fairy or was a fairy but has had his wings stolen, and we're not sure. Risky, who is a wild magic sorcerer, and it's quite an interesting party, and we're probably all going to get dropped in the ocean sometime soon.
It sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean it is fun, and it's stupid fun, which I think D&D does well. D&D does well, and in between jokes about like, oh, we had a wild magic surge which centered grease on the wild magic sorcerer, so like the whole of the area was just slippy, and none of us could get through a door. That was a good 5 minutes of laughing about greasy people rolling on the floor, and that kind of stuff. And it does it really well. It doesn't have to be like deep and meaningful and stuff. And that's exactly what we want with the bunch of us to then in between that laugh about real life and that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm actually playing more 5e at home than I do on anywhere on the internet.
There you go. Amazing. So we can find you on the internet and all the things you're associated with, Millie. Please, can you refresh our memories with your links, please?
Oh, okay. So mostly I spend time on Garblag Games. So twitch.tv/Garblag Games, and there are other links on there, but that's mostly where you'll see my face. And then I post random guff on Twitter. North-South divide, northern good, southern evil, yeah, and things like that. And that's on Twitter at Millie the GM. And if you are on a social media site, search Millie GM. It's probably me. It's somebody with pink hair, winner. But yeah, mostly just the Garblag Games. I just hang out there and play some RPGs at the minute.
All right. Well, I will make sure there are links to yourself and Garblag Games down in the description below, and indeed your products on or SciCamp on Drive-Through,
Yeah.
and all the good links that I found for you, including the Roll for Good game and all that sort of
that was
stuff.
great fun. Absolutely great fun.
I mean, you can tell us a little bit more about it if you like.
No, I heartily recommend, folks. If we played Things from the Flood, again, it was a thing I wrote. Go and hit up their YouTube with that link. It was supporting ILGA. So Birmingham has a VHS for Birmingham as their logo. It was great. The players were a dream. The folks at Roll for Good were a dream.
They are a good group of people.
It was absolutely good people doing good stuff, and we had a riot. And I'm very grateful that they didn't just cut me off because we nearly got to the very end and didn't finish. And we were like, no, 2 minutes, please, roll some dice. But yeah, I recommend go and watch it. Go and watch it. And there's a bunch of other really, really fun stuff on there. The YouTube page that I can't praise enough.
Indeed.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, seconded. I did something for them a few years ago now, so absolutely. Please go and follow those links and follow watch Millie's content. So you have gained a wealth of experience, not just within the D&D/5e rule set, but across multiple TTRPGs. And just as we come to sort of the close of this interview, what almost sage advice do you have to give out to new GMs who are looking to sort of step across the screen or pick up a system, a quick start rule set or anything like that, just to help settle them into the gaming experience for them and the players around the table?
I genuinely think folks need to remember that the GM is a player. There is this big onus on folks to be a GM who has a massive command of everything, and all that, that kind of stuff. I know all the law, all the rules, all the things, all the stuff. I've got, and if that's fun for you, great. If it's a little bit stressful and a little bit daunting, you can offload it. Like, we were talking about wild magic sorceries and monks and that kind of stuff. Like, you don't need to know what the wild magic table is. In fact, you can just be like, hey, when do I have to roll the wild magic stuff? And they'll be like, well, that's kind of, and then the same for players. Like, if you want a friend to GM a thing for you, take some of the load, like get involved and know, all right, don't worry about the something rules. I've got that covered. You read the storyline. Because I think genuinely, like, the RPG community and the RPG, modern RPGs, we've got past that. Like, the DM is there to kill you. The DM there is to trick you. You must game your way around and get that's not what we're here for anymore. Like, doesn't matter if you've got the most supremely optimized colonial marine. 66 is still going to kill you, buddy. So like, we've moved sort of beyond that, and you can farm the rules for this out and trust your players because you are actually one of the players. Trust your GM because they are actually one of your players. Don't buy into the oh, well, like 2PK. All right, yeah, you do you, man. But we're gonna let Kevin know the rules for all the firearms in Twilight 2K, and Dave can know the scavenging rules while I just do the rest of the world. You do you, man. But as a GM, I know it's called Games Master, but you're still a player.
Yes.
You're still a player. And as a player, I know they're called the Games Master, but they're still allowed to have fun, as you are. That's the only thing I would be like, definitely.
No, 100%. Thank you for your insights and
you're welcome.
Your information. No, not at all. A valuable resource to sort of use. So, and I hope, and I'm sure it will be very useful to someone listening that maybe has question themselves as to whether they can sort of step up or move across the screen and how they can be supported. So, thank you.
Do you know what one? Like, I know I'm keep going longer, but one of the things I absolutely remember from playing Adventure League, right? we had a family come and play. So Phil, Nathaniel, and Talia we still play on where they were in. Well, Phil was part of the level 20 campaign, that everything, Team Mountains, that kind of stuff. But when we were playing that, there was one day where I had to leave early. And I had to say to the players, I'm really sorry, I've got to go home. My children are ill. I need to leave. And Talia, this little 12-year-old girl, was like, you can be married and still play D&D. I was like, yeah, absolutely. You can absolutely, you can be a mum and still play D&D. It's like, yes, absolutely. And that was one of the most sort of heart kind of RPG moments. Just this small girl just being like, wow, that's a bit cool. Because up until that point, I'm just a woman who teaches them Dungeons and Dragons, and now I'm a person. And she's like, that's allowed? And that was really cute. But that was one of the best RPG moments I've had that isn't like a story part. Just seeing people introduced to more and more RPGs. I love it.
I love it. I love it. Amazing. And I would love, using the words of connection, to maybe run a one shot for yourself in the future. It doesn't have to be streamed, can just be an audio podcast, can just be a private game, doesn't matter. But I'd love to get you back on the show as your content develops and more things happen. If you do sort of move into the third book for Coriolis, once you finish the last Cyclade, I'd love to get you back on the show in the future and see how things in your TTRPG sphere have developed and moved forward. If you'd, of course, be willing to come back and join me again.
Absolutely, yeah, that'd be great.
So until we can get that organised and scheduled and things, it has been such a pleasure. Please, if you're listening to this, scroll down, follow those links, support Millie, support Garblag Games, Roll for Good as well, of course.
Yeah.
Millie, thank you so much.
No, it's been a good chat, man. Thanks very much.
Until we speak again, goodbye.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about the show, then go to www.snydersreturn.squarespace.com. Alternatively, you can find us over on Twitter @ReturnSnyder. We have a Linktree link in the description of this episode. And if you want to support us, come and join us over on Patreon. And we also have a Discord server. Please leave us a review, because we'd love to learn how to improve the channel and provide better content out for those who are listening. Until we speak again, thank you.